Ebru Hanım, artık söz sizde. Biz 1 saate göre ayarladık.
Tamamdır.
Vaktimiz biliyorsunuz.
Madam Moderator, we have an hour. You have the floor. Thank you. Actually, I was expecting a much more crowded audience because everywhere in our country, in the world, everybody talks about the permits, and Mr. Giles Dixon already mentioned this. We are trying to increase our installed capacity, and we are trying to make it as fast as possible. And we are all a part of this industry, and this week is the week of energy workers, so I congratulate your week. I will introduce my panel to you shortly, and we will be elaborating on this topic. But in Turkey, the story of wind started in 1998, but actually it started in 2005, 1st of November 2007, 2015. These are the milestones. But now we are in record high numbers in terms of the applications. So far we have never seen so much interest in the applications. Our panel will be elaborating on this. Our topic is important. We have two topics here actually. As I've already mentioned, the recent developments in the wind energy sector. Since 19th of November 2002, we have pre-licenses and also acceleration of the investment processes. Of course, we have been discussing what we can do in the future for a long time. As the Turkish Association of Wind Energy, our vision provides increasing the investment and also providing support for the infrastructure for regulation. Once I am here, I would like to give you some information. We were established with a cabinet decree in 1999. I like figures and I like to share figures. Now, the power 82% of the power plants with a manufacturing license and 75% of all power plants are members of our association. And there are new investors in the industry for the reason I have mentioned. If some of the power plants have not been a member so far, I invite them to be so. And in line with the different needs and requirements, we have some working groups in which each and every topic can be discussed 7 days, 24 hours a day. So we open all these things to discussion. We have some opinions we have created in a consolidated manner, but without any exception, we convey all the opinions to the public authorities. So, as I've already said, personally or institutionally, if you have not been a member, so please be a member to Turkish Association of Wind Energy. I will introduce the panel to you, but before that I have other figures. Our project stock is far beyond that. We have targets as well. We are not in 20,000 megawatt in terms of operation, but we also have licensed and non-licensed power plants. According to our latest statistic, it is more than 38,000. So between 27 to 28,000 we have project stock, which makes this session so valuable. I would like to introduce my panel to you one by one, and I will ask them the questions. The regulatory authority, EPDK, is the first. Deniz Daştan, Mr. Deniz Daştan, the head of Department of Electricity Market. Then Mr. Sabahattin Öz, Deputy Director General for Energy Works, and also representing the private sector from Akfen Holding, Mr. Kürşat Tezkan, the Deputy Director General of Akfen Holding in charge of renewable energy, and Dr. Muhammed Tarık Durmuş, the head of department of infrastructure investments and environmental impact assessment from the Ministry of Environment and Infrastructure. Deniz Bey, Mr. Deniz, I think you have a presentation to make. So we will start with you because you are going to create a ground for us, and you can use the floor to make your presentation. Can you put my presentation on the screen, please? Distinguished participants, we can start. At the outset, I would like to salute you with my best regards. I can safely say that these 2 days are so satisfactory in terms of discussions regarding energy. Yesterday, so many sessions were held before. In the morning session, Mr. Minister touched upon really important points, and I really felt excited. Our topic is energy, and we just get energized if we can do good things about energy. We are going through a sensitive period of time. It's a sensitive period of time. Everyone is making emphasis on renewable energy, and there are two basic principles for this as the reason. The conflicts, the wars, Russia, supply security, natural gas, you know it. And there is a second topic as well. In the post-pandemic world, the fossil fuel prices really changed. Before pandemic, 1 ton of coal was $50, 1 cubic ton of natural gas was $190 as of January 2020, and these prices rocketed. 1 cubic ton of natural gas increased as high as up to 3,000 euros, and it has not came back to the original prices. Currently, the coal is around 120 to 150 US dollars, and natural gas is around 500 US dollars per cubic ton. And before the winter is coming, the prices will go up. And therefore, Europe has recognized that these prices will not come back, therefore making an emphasis on renewable energies. And nowadays, fossil fuels are way too expensive and they are harmful for the environment. So European Union is declaring strategies one after another. Other countries, other regions in the world are also focusing on it. And also for Turkey, we have 33,000 megawatt capacity, which has already been allocated. Half of it solar, half of it wind, and there is an enthusiasm in Turkish market about this. Today, I really want to talk about 3 topics. I have already consumed 3 minutes, and I have 16 minutes left. I will just give you some overall figures. This is going to be quick. And the second part will be the recent developments in the world, especially in every 15 years, the trendy spots in our electric market change, and I will conclude by mentioning some issues regarding the permits. We all agree on that. We need to accelerate it, and we need to make it concrete. According to the wind energy figures. This is the licensed part, 94,000 megawatt plus we have 11,000 megawatt unlicensed, so around 14,000 megawatt licensed, 11,000% in operation. We still have 2,700 megawatt which has yet to be operational. Some of it has already been added to the license. Their procedures have been completed. So currently we have 3,000 megawatt which has been licensed but not in operation yet. And in terms of pre-license, or let me put it this way, when you look at the bottom part here, the grand total is 110,000, and here we have around 31.6 thousand megawatt, and half of it comes from wind energy power plants, and in the days to follow it's foreseen to increase by 6,000 megawatts. Let's look at the wind energy which is yet to be operational. 40,000 we say, and when you add 14,000 to this 27,000, it makes 40,000. And we have pre-licenses with storages. We talked about wind energy power plants with pre-licenses, and also there are some that are pending from the tender back in 2012. It's around 700, 800 megawatt capacity. We also have 1,000 megawatt, which is licensed but not in operational yet. And we have a capacity increase 4,200. Some of it has already been added to the capacity, some have not been. This 4,200 megawatt, it is important actually. In the last 4 years, this is the increase in the power which has been granted to us. I appreciate the enthusiasm of the investors, but I have criticism as well. You always ask for capacity increase, and we have given 4,200 capacity increase. However, what has been operational in the last 4 years, it is only 200 or 300 megawatts. So anyone who comes to us to ask for extension, we expect them to come with their turbine contracts. So EPDK has taken up the sword to revoke the license if the licenses are not put in operation. I want to give you some detailed, elaborated information regarding the production facilities with storages. We have given pre-licenses to 152, and those with the storage facilities 176, and they amount up to 12,000 megawatts. So we can conclude two things. First, at this stage, the allocated capacity 33,000, solar plus wind, and currently under construction we have sent 2,000 projects to TEİAŞ, and we are waiting for the opinion of TEİAŞ. So the process is going at full speed now. Having said that, I would like to attract your attention to one issue. We are talking about the development of the process in Turkey. As you have seen, currently we have solar and wind power plants everywhere in Turkey. The red dots are the ones in operation. Men are not good at colors, but I will call it orange. Orange represent the ones that are operational partly, and the green ones are just the projects, and those are the ones with storages. So As you can see, it is now not confined to Aegean region or the Marmara region, but the other parts of the country have already been included into this map. And as Turkey, we have started to use this capacity. We have recognized, we have found out that there is this capacity in every part of the country. You see that the European part of Turkey, the Marmara region, it's much more colorful. With the increase in the capacity and the capacity allocations, the Marmara region is a little bit ahead of the others in terms of the license applications and license allocations. And in the future it will be more. I want to focus on the Aegean region and the Marmara region. So the red ones tell us that we have plenty of capacity in operation, but we have not added 10,000 megawatt capacity into this map yet. So in the days to come, this is going to be much more colorful. This is very good. I hope in the future we will have more red dots, red spots. The reason why we are here today is to increase these red dots all around the country as soon as possible. Our ministers delivered speeches, we had deputy ministers, we had officials delivered their speeches, but today we would like to discuss all these things here in a much more professional manner so that we can have a roadmap in hand. I also would like to make a point. All the time our investors say that, okay, red dots are there, but there are also green ones, and the batteries, the storages will also be there. We actually did not go into details of the batteries so far, so I would like to elaborate on this. I would like to dwell on the batteries part. We have these storages for a long time, but it's been an intensive manner for the last 3 years. 25,000, 30,000 megawatt, which we had in 2020, and for 2026 it will be 125, and according to the estimates we will achieve this target earlier than 2026, because currently we are ahead of 100,000. When we look at the year 2030, 420,000 megawatt storage is expected to be installed all around the world, and as Turkey we have already had this trend. And what is the reason that the globe is having so many storages, so many batteries all around the world? Is it the reason just to ensure connectivity and continuity? First of all, we want to use it for the side services as well. We have very smart investors. They will they will use these batteries for side purposes, the arbitrage or day and night price differences. So they are going to charge it and discharge it at least one time a day. So 1.5 billion Turkish lira was paid to these side services, auxiliary services last year. And when we update this figure today, it is more than 20 billion Turkish lira. And we see that what would happen if we had the storages in operation, the cost would be less than this. So the storages are really extending our horizon and providing new opportunities for all of us. Again, there is another point which is raised throughout this Congress, and as Turkey, there is a risk for us to miss this. If we get late, we will miss this. Offshores. Offshores have come to a very good point, a very good level all around the world. I mentioned this. In every 15 years, the trends change in electric market. Back in the year 2007 and 8, the trend was wind and solar onshore. Onshore means territorial. But today, in terms of onshore, the world has been satisfied. There is saturation. And now the trend is offshore. And the trend is storage today. And in addition to them, some small nuclear power plants, pocket power plants. I believe we will be talking about them more and more in the 15 years to come. And these are our figures from Turkey. In 2018, there was a tender opened by the ministry. However, there was no bidder. Therefore, that tender was cancelled. And in 2023, some installation areas have been announced for offshore under YEKAS. And as per our national energy plan, by 2035, 5,000 megawatt offshore is targeted. And currently the installed in the world, 7% of the installed wind power comes from offshore. In Turkey, we don't have any so far. And when we look at the operational capacity per year, in the last 3 years, there is a huge capacity taken into operation. I was browsing the net and I saw them. Ofgem, the UK's regulatory authority, opened a tender. Actually, they did not make the tender. I saw this information in their webpage. 3,000 megawatt was the amount of the tender, and they are now considering another 4,000 megawatt. So this is the installed capacity of offshore wind energy in the globe. So it is really spiking. And let's look at this one. By 2032, it's going to reach 450,000 megawatts. So it's going to be as high as what we have in onshore today. Looking at Europe, we see that the installations are around the UK, Germany, the Western Europe. So more than 14,000 megawatts out of 36 in Europe come from the UK, 6,000 megawatt come from Germany. I just wanted to put this, and it's like they are 100 meters offshore, and there are some installations as deep as 89 meters within the sea. So they are now 100 kilometers offshore. And our ministry seems to have taken action. Here you can see the YEKA areas. We see the depth, for example, 93 meters, 74 meters depth. And Turkey has already initiated, launched this process, we can safely say that. So in following days, maybe as EPDK, we may consider inclusion of offshore in the coming tenders with storages. This may require us make some small amendments in our regulation. The final stage, and I'm checking my time, I think I have 10 minutes. Less than 10 minutes, 8 minutes. Okay, I can accelerate. So when we come to investment processes, as we have already mentioned, the acceleration of these investment processes did not came from out of blue. Ursula von der Leyen, the lady in red jacket, I believe she does not have any other jacket, or she believes that suits her. She made a statement. The head of the European Commission, she said, if we want to catch the trend of the renewable, as European Union, we need to shorten the permit processes. And she said, we need to. So she said, in average, it should be as soon as 24 months. And I believe she said this just a couple of days before they announced their strategy papers on the 24th of September. Excuse me, October. And when we come to Turkey, this is a slide, a summary, shows us how it is taking place. We have some chain procedures. Without environmental impact assessment, you cannot apply for any other thing. Without the forest allocation permit, you cannot ask for another permit. We know that it is not fitting in 36 months, because most of the time investors tell us or complain that EPDK, you told us to do it in 36 months, but we cannot do it in 36 months. Actually, this lengthy permit procedures really decrease the motivation of our investors. In order to reverse this, we need to shorten these procedures. After the new government, it was told that the Economic Coordination Council would gather. Therefore, if you have suggestions and recommendations, please convey, please submit. And under the presidency of Cevdet Yılmaz, His Excellency the Deputy President, we conducted these meetings, and as an agenda item, we suggested, we put forward the shortening of these permit procedures, and it was accepted as an agenda item. And we are actually the suggesting or the recommending authority. Now we have the duty of following it up. So most importantly, now we have the support of Presidential Investment Office, because the decisions of the Economic Coordination Council are followed by, are monitored by the Investment Office of the President. As you know, the forests are really important. This is a fact. They have a great place in our lives. But energy in the forests is also equally important. We say this: we will not give harm to the forest, we will preserve the forest when creating or when generating energy out of the forest, but we need to do it quickly. We have 3 permits for the forest. The first one is the forest pre-permit, which is based on the pre-license. Then the final permit for the forest, which is based on the pre-license, and then you will just go for the license. No exaggeration, it takes 22 months, 18 months for the forests, and the optimist prediction is 4 months for the building permit, so it takes at least 22 months. We had this conversation with the DG of Forestry, and we wanted to reduce these permits from 3 to 2. So number 3, the final the final forest permit based on pre-license. Now we have revoking it. So de facto, we have reduced the permits by 6 months. So as per the regulation, it provides that you hold the pre-license until 2025. If you If you bring me the pre-license, I will consider it enough for the forest permit. I will not ask for anything else. And this is not enough. In line with our targets, we had the deal with the DG of Forest in order to make only one single permit for the forests. We will meet with them on Friday this week. We attach great importance to this. So with one single permit we take based on the pre-license, then this is going to be very well accelerated. We have the will for this, we have the energy for this, and we believe that we will be able to do this. And with the process we will start as of Friday. We will be doing that meeting along with the Presidential Investment Office. I believe in the 3 months to come we will conclude this and we will reduce this process down to only one single permit.
O ilk halka alkışlayan arkadaşımız hangisiyse onu bir ara yemeğe götüreyim ben.
Whoever applauded the first, I mean, I should take him to dinner sometime. The target here is 12 months, and we plan to do so in 3 months of time. So we started with forests, and yes, we have some issues regarding the forests, but I'm sure you will accept the fact that without the environmental assessment reports, you can never talk about an investment. Because if authorities say no, then you would have to pack your bag and move somewhere else to settle. So 2 things are important for permits. One, that environmental assessment, and the TEA. Meaning, if you're going to be there, then you have to do whatever it takes. So that it's that simple. And we had some series of meetings, and we're focused on the TEA protocol, which was under revision already. It'll be revised, and before the meeting, we kindly asked them not to finalize and sign the revision. Our request is, in case of a negative outcome, I mean, okay, you get a negative report, but then why? We don't know the reason why. And how can we turn that negative into positive? We don't know. So we need to see and be informed about alternatives. We hosted the Bilgem team recently, and we discussed the same thing with them. Okay, your TA is negative, but move 120 meters to your right or shorten your height like this. But if we can understand the details and the reasons of a rejection or a negative outcome, then, I mean, we can make the necessary arrangements and move on with the investment instead of putting it away completely. And we kindly ask TA applications to be open each week, not in a, not once a month. Now the average is 4.5 months. So you apply and then you get your result in approximately 4.5 months. And this is such a waste of time. Let's have a weekly mechanism and move forward as such. And let's bring those 4 months to get the results to 2 months. Now, looks like everything is fine, and we assume it'll be revised as such. And our expectation is a shortening of 2 months on TEA side, but we also experience 7 to 8 months to complete the entire process, and we hope it'll be shortened as well. The environmental assessment report. Well, 2022 was interesting, but the near future appears to be interesting as well. 2022 July was not that great for us, because back then The environmental assessment was positive, but then we received an announcement saying you will be put under the long-term assessment as well. I mean, it was interesting, but of course that was for the public's interest and public's benefit. But there was a negative reflection on the industry because it delays all processes and it makes everything take longer. So we will have another meeting next week, and we hope that we will shorten this time issue as well. And we hope to receive support from the president. So we need to do a lot more. Migrating birds. Well, investors always tell us that we are not even as lucky as the birds. Of course, let's put emotions aside. Birds migrating is crucial, and if we can have the double ontological surveillance, then we will lose a whole year. But then there was a piece of good news. So the second surveillance and the measurements on the ontology side can be based on prediction, which brings us a relief. But if they're going to ask ontological surveillance, maybe we can limit the areas that would require so that it can ease the process. And 2 weeks later, again together with the president and the general manager of the Environmental Assessment Authority, and we are going to reflect our requests to shorten this time. So yes, we don't have much time, and I'm about to wrap up my speech. And also licenses. Licenses are sometimes challenging too. We went through an election process, and after that, actually, we realized that we need to do something with the licenses. We need alternatives for licenses. You know how the public work mechanism was revised and modified. The situation is if you cannot get your permit from your local spot, then go to the central administration and they can help, they said. We are going to ask the same thing from the Ministry of Environment. If issues cannot be solved on with local means, then let's bring it to the central administration. Maybe if a district or a village is facing troubles, then they should have the opportunity to go to the city to find the related authorities to take care of their needs and get their permits. We see some overlapping with mine sites. As you know, maybe Mr. Kürşat will tell us about it because he was complaining about they were suffering from it too. Usually mine sites are round in shapes, but lately, because of the wind farms, they have changed shape. So it looks different. But they check the fields and we see that there is a lack of awareness here. So after all the revisions, we also hope that in the mine sites and the energy plant sites will go through a modification as well. The RES, the wind plant pre-license phase and the time period should also be shortened. We want to move fast to keep up with all the developments, but we are in this super slow car. We hit the accelerator, but you cannot accelerate. So we have to change the vehicle. Yes, we have to change the vehicle. That's in everyone's minds, but Again, we need to ease some challenging and some long processes.
Yılındaki yaklaşıma uygun olarak 15 yıllık, 20 yıllık periyottan sonra günümüz koşullarına göre
It's been 15 to 20 years, actually, since efforts started. And it is on the verge of becoming obsolete and it's falling behind, and that needs revision as well. Thank you so much for your interest. Thank you, Mr. Deniz. It was quite a detailed presentation, and when public wants to take the mic, of course, we should offer them the mic. We heard a lot of good news, and Mr. Mustafa Varang joined the counseling meeting, and he also supported the idea of establishing a council, and that's very good. And by the way, we're so sorry. We are way behind the schedule, so we have to. No, I think we'll cover the time issue in the Q&A session. No, we won't have any time. We just have 20 minutes left. So, Mr. Sebahattin, you have some models, but as the ministry, you are assuming some, and you're generating some new models to ease the process. So, what will be the future of licenses? Thank you, and my greetings to all of you. So, what to do to ease the processes and supporting the investments? Well, my mind goes back to 2010s. Those are the times when we started, discussing these topics. That's when we started to talk about wind. We were just realizing that we had the potential for it. But the installation, how long it takes, it was like early days, and this is what we know. If you're facing problems, find the solution for it as soon as possible and never waste time. So licenses, the permits, and the investments for wind, yes, it has to be accelerated. We followed Mr. Deniz, and he provided greatly detailed information. And yes, we need predictability in those processes as well. Just like Mr. Deniz said, as we attended meetings in Germany, we realized that decision-making and implementing in between takes approximately 7 years. So it takes a very long time, because it was different with Germany, because they have different states, jurisdictions are different, etc. So it took them 2 years just to decide on what to do, where. I mean, after 2 years, then came the question, like, okay, we're talking about averages, but how long is it going to take? It took 6 months to reply us. The fastest implementation or the project finalization will be around 5 years. Well, and it can take as long as 10 to 12 years. So minimum and maximum amount of time is like huge. The difference is huge. You see, we have tens of projects that couldn't even get the licenses yet. So this predictability is such a challenge here, because you can never predict anything. When can you commission the project? When will you finalize? Nobody knows, but we need clarity. We need definite, clear answers. And let's admit that the feed-in tariff mechanism is something that we copied from Europe. I mean, we had to do it like that. First, you remember, 5 € was like the first announced price, and then the tariffs were worked on, and then came different pricing. But it was successful, both for public and for private sector. The pricing efforts were very successful. And now looking at the currently announced figures, I see that the result again is the echo of how it all started. I feel like Yekdem and FIDF tariffs is the way to go. That is my perception, and I still keep it that way. But so many countries gave that up. They sometimes go for auctions or they have different pricing, but we have to benefit from the experience. Surely we should, keep up with the developments. We need to see other country, the examples and the practices of other countries, but then we can come up with our own. And the Ministry of Energy has taken series of steps, and they've assumed great missions like to have local means and capabilities, but only then we forgot about how long it takes. So, then, okay, we finally digested the fact that it is going to take long. You can have a plant, it'll take a couple of years to finalize, but a factory will take way longer, like a minimum of 5 years. And the YECA projects differentiate in details, and the details are as such. When you look at the specifications, you will see that the ministry will positively cooperate with the competitors. This actually should be the golden standard. The related ministries should always be involved in the process to support the efforts. So you generate projects, you grant pre-license to the investor, complete all processes. That's fine, but this sounds like a private sector investor. Implementing, commissioning, it is all up to the investor, or just like Mr. Dennis said, the investors are not liable of what might happen in the first 36 months in terms of delays, etc. So you cannot fine, you cannot do anything, force major or delays because of some public processes, etc. The definition that the ministry will support all efforts with good intentions. Okay, but what about a financial assessment for those who are in the tender? Because if you do that, then you won't even need pre-license efforts as well. And also, we are experienced. We have gained quite an experience thanks to YECA projects, and we had license contests too. And of course, you need to take your lesson. Take a look at your previous projects. Take a look at how many of them were commissioned or finalized. Why were they not finalized? What were the shortcomings? What were the mistakes? You need to identify all details so that you won't repeat them again. But you cannot always check your rear mirror. You have to look forward. You have to set your eyes on the horizon. So you need to be a visionary too, because the velocity changes really frequently. And in the past, I was thinking like the public practices and then the private sector only follows. But that is not the case. Now the public side tries to keep up with the private sector because the change is really fast. Development is taking place really rapidly. There are so many facilities now, and industry requires hundreds of megawatts on a daily basis. The sector is huge, and the course resembles a snowball right now. So a lot has to be regulated, modified, assessed, changed, but we need to see those changes taking place very quickly because time doesn't stop. The industry is expecting a solution, and sometimes they have to come up with their own solutions, like the unlicensed practices or so. So Yektem has put forward a great practice, but you know how it was. When banks offer financing, they ask for a base price. But we're in contact with banks. This rule has to change too. A good example to that is RES, YEKA 3. We had the contest back in July, and after 14 months, I think 2 projects are about to be commissioned. So they're in the field, turbines are ordered, blades are transferred to SEHA right now, and there is a motivation to sell to the market here. You see, a project can sell for 2.5 years. So this motivation brought about a great price. And because the motivation is there, they rushed to fulfill all processes and to do whatever it takes. And like I said, now they're about to be commissioned. So, and by the way, banks are financing these projects. So when banks plan their financing needs, they really mind the detail of directly selling to the market. Okay, so we have the space price, etc., but this is not the destination. You have to know how to see beyond, because pricing mechanisms change really rapidly too. I mean, because our economy is changing really frequently, then that requires rapid modification and regulation. And we are there at every step of the phase from A to Z. We also want to make sure that we are ready for the investor, and we want to make sure that we are ready to support investors. We had joint projects with Germany and Denmark and France, and I think France and UK has similar mechanisms. So they're not visiting every single investor here. But let's start with those long thinking, never ending processes. Let's shorten those processes. A single office, single authority, single process, single mechanism. It is a must. Yes, we tried to copy European methods, but it wasn't that feasible. We have to come up with our own. You also followed the offshore details from Mr. Deniz. We also announced YEKA projects. Contests and arrangements will be carried out. We received the necessary assessments and feedback. Aegean is a bit problematic here, but then the geographic conditions are also different. Our seas are deep, and it is expensive. So we would need floating, but that's also expensive. Our seas are deep and Baltic conditions do not apply to our seas. I mean, our winds are not that strong, but similar winds are there onshore, onshore. So it's in our agenda. God willing, soon we will formulate the details and present it to the related ministries. Thank you. Definitely, I fully agree with your remarks. I mean, since day one, we tried to move forward with a common mind, a common effort. Everyone emphasized the environmental assessment, but what is but what you said is like indispensable, and sometimes things go bad and then lawsuits emerge, and I also agree with your remarks on shortening the duration of those processes. Yes, the, and yes, we also need to build capacity. We also know that yes, reports and specifications are very strict, but the current version of the environmental assessment reports are not that far from regulations. But what is your take on everything that has been discussed here so far? Hello, thank you for this great opportunity. And let me start with the environmental assessment report. We sometimes forget what it was, but in the law it is stated that it is a report to identify any possible negative effects on the environment. This report will be, this assessment will be carried out to identify possible risks, possible risk mitigation methods, so that the project can be surveilled, so that can be monitored, followed, etc., etc. So this is a due diligence for environment.
Feasible olup olmadığını, değil mi? Ekonomik olarak feasible olup olmadığını ilk önce değerlendirip ondan sonra karar veriyorlar.
I mean,
Aynı
this
şekilde
only makes sense. Of course, you have to have your due diligence, and if there are environmental effects, then this project can simply not move on. So what do? We get together with the related authorities whenever we receive a new project, and we reach out to all stakeholders, including the public as well. And we want all stakeholders to assess the project. So yes, environmental assessment report is under the authority of the related ministry, but it should be decided on with joint efforts, with a multidisciplinary approach. So all related institutions and bodies should be involved so that decisions can be made.
yani dediğimiz gibi yani
The environmental assessment
çalışıyoruz. Dediğim gibi fizibilite olduğu için
is about
bu konuda
taking measures before anything bad happens.
EPDK kuralı
The EPDK
ama oklar da bize dönmesin yani şimdi değil mi bu konuda
is okay, standing on some solid ground. You have some strict rules, but we need support from related parties.
tabii biraz daha böyle geri planda baktığım zaman yaklaşık dünyada 50 yıldır ÇED uygulanıyor. İlk önce
CHET has been around for the last 50 years. It started in the 70s in the States, and then Europe implemented it. And this assessment is active, is being implemented in our country for the last 30 years. There were some modifications, so It was updated a couple of times.
Revizyonlar yapılıyor.
Of course, some revisions are made from time to time, and soon there will be an Annex 2. Yes, I mean, not soon. And recently we had the Annex 2, and it received some criticism.
Değerlendiriyor olması ilgili kurum kuruluşlarından görüş alınmayacağı anlamına gelmiyor. O kurumlardan yine görüşler alınacak.
But
Dolayısıyla
let me assure you, necessary ministries or necessary authorities will continue to be involved in the process. And now I feel excited a bit. I think I'm about to. I think my time is about to be up, but can I ask for more time? And yes, please move on. We were supposed to have 80 minutes, but now we have to squeeze it into 60 minutes. But I mean, let's make the most out of it because we're talking about very important stuff. I do not want to keep it too long, but
2013 yılından itibaren chat tamamen
let me put it this way.
başvurular elektronik ortamda
Now we receive environmental assessment reports on a digital basis, which saves tremendously both from paper and time. But what are the advantages? Texts or emails are enough to reach out and inform investors. Wherever you have your data, you can kickstart your process, you can apply, or if you need to upload a file, a document, or whatever you have to do, you can carry it out in a transparent fashion. And
arkadaşlarımız ne yapabilirler?
what can investors
Çok ciddi bir arşiv.
do? Environmental assessment authorities have a huge archive. They have archive for good practices, positive results, but also for negative results, and they are available online. So whenever you need a planning for any project, please check websites to see similar practices, similar processes, so you can know how it was concluded. But also, yes, we need to shorten the durations, okay, but looking at the new regulation, one thing has to be discussed. Okay, you apply, and regulation says that in 5 days of time, states and determine the dates for the necessary meetings. 5 days, 7 days, 10 days. But these are very limited amounts of time. Why is there such a limitation? But once you have your format, you can have an additional 6 months or a year more. But let's revise this. And also, if you don't have your environmental assessment report, don't worry, it's not doom and gloom for you. It can be revised too. There can be further assessments, and it can be carried out very rapidly.
Ekibimizdeki arkadaşlarımız da buradalar. Teknik detay, teknik soru olursa yine arada da değerlendirebiliriz. Yani arkadaşlar mesai yönetimi olmadan çalışıyorlar. Gerçekten
And our teams are working around the clock. They have no office hours. They work all the time. And I think there is this one ongoing REST project. They're following the latest with it. So yes, they always work. But let me wrap it up.
aşılması gereken bir engel gibi düşünülmemesi lazım.
Please do not regard the environmental assessment report as a block, as something hindering. It is needed. It is a report. It is an assessment of the nature. I don't want to sound like I'm an environmental activist, but this is our planet. We need to change the perception. I don't want to keep it too long, so yes, it'll be it. Okay, so what I understand is that the faster the investors carry out fulfill their duties and do whatever it takes, the easier it'll be completed. And also, if I'm not mistaken, chat will not cause any delay. This environmental assessment report only wants to make sure that the environment will not be harmed. And also, in the development phase of the project, you sometimes realize that you cannot realize this project because of technical details, etc. And if there are any major difficulties or obstacles, then again having some reports and assessments would be lovely, because then you will have the opportunity to realize them sooner. So, and now I will leave the floor to Mr. Kürşat from Akfen. So I want to hear the past, present, and possible future. I want to see how you see the future. Hello. As Akfen, not just us, but all investors are being challenged. So compared to Europe, yes, we are way beyond than where they are. When we first started our energy investments, as you know, we got the very first solar license. We could complete everything in 8 months to 12 months of time. But now the very same process approximately takes 48 months. So we couldn't move forward. But unfortunately, in terms of licenses, we fell behind. But how was the process in Europe? Excuse the war, excuse price hikes, excuse anything. But no, they are prioritizing the permit process. They grant license and permits so that the investors can start working on it, because they have ambitious goals. And if they cannot hit their goals, they will be challenged and they will have issues on energies. After the eruption of Ukraine and Russia war, a lot has changed. China projected it actually. China started its solar and wind investments way sooner, and it was like a declaration of war. And China moved forward very quickly. China is energy dependent, and China decided to become self-sufficient. They started their investments. Their financing will be completed soon. So now China is almost ready for cheap energy and cheap labor. But Europe only realized it with the Russia-Ukraine war. Now all countries are coming up with their own plans and ambitions. Take a look at Scotland or UK. They prioritize wind, they prioritized offshore, and their government constructed their own ports. Now they have Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, so they want to commission their projects and plans as soon as possible. Germany prioritized hydrogen, offering incentives now, and in order to accelerate efforts and project implementations, they are offering supports and incentives. The government is covering the cost for iron and steel or some related industry. So now they are trying to build this ecosystem, and their natural resources are not enough, so they announced that they will buy from abroad and they will offer subventions as well. But how will they make revenue? Not out of thin air. So Germany will offer incentives, and the carbon tax will come from Turkish side. Why are we regressing now? Yes, everything takes a long, long time. But why are we regressing? Why? Because each ministry has its own targets. Yes, energy ministries hits target to make sure that the energy will fully be generated from renewables. But Minister of Agriculture or Minister of Treasury, they don't share the same goal. And then, for example, the Minister of Forestry set their own goals, and they say that I don't want to see plants in forests, this, that. I mean, yes, the Ministry of Forestry will protect the environment or the forest or the arable land, fine, but but we try to make our projects multidisciplinary. For example, if we are establishing solar farms, then we do it on a certain height so that underneath the solar panel there will be shade. And because of condensation, water drips under the solar panels, so grass grow. And that's great for animals. That's great for husbandry. Netherlands is a country of agriculture, and their energy comes from wind. Agriculture and energy looks like two different worlds, but they merged those two worlds so good that one complements another and supports one another. And that's how they protect their arable land. I know we don't have time, so I'm keeping my examples limited. So it is high time ministries get together and set common goals that complement and support one another, because otherwise we cannot be successful. Can you imagine licensing and the entire process taking up to 48 hours? If we do not modify or ease or simplify the processes, then I'm afraid we cannot hit our goals. If only we had more time. For example, maybe if we can have an online event, then we will have the opportunity to talk a lot more. Unfortunately, we have no time for Q&A. Actually, they could ask questions. I mean, that would be great for us too.
Ben yani çok teşekkür ediyorum katılımınız için. Dediğim gibi sorularımızı bir yerde toplayalım. Çok kısa zamanda eğer uygun
Maybe we can do this on an online platform. Maybe we can do the Q&A in an online platform. Thank you. We would like to thank you as well. We will present the plaques to you for your participation. Madam Arıcı, first you will be presenting the plaque to the panel, and then Mr. Murat Çolakoğlu, the board member of TÜREV, will be presenting your plaque to you.
Tabii ki biz çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Enerji İşleri Genel Müdürlüğü Genel Müdürüm Sebahattin Öz'e teşekkür ediyoruz. Çok sağ olsunlar efendim. Bir şöyle. Çevre Şehircilik ve İklim Değişikliği Bakanlığı Altyapı Yatırımları ÇED ve Stratejik Çevresel Değerlendirme Dairesi Başkanı Sayın Doktor Muhammed Tarık Durmuş'a çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Toplu halde çekeceğiz efendim. Burada bekleyebilirseniz bir toplu halde çekelim. Akfen Yenilenebilir Enerji Genel Müdürü Kürşat Tezkan'a çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Elektrik Piyasası Daire Başkanı, EPDK Başkanı Deniz Daştan'a efendim çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Çok sağ olsunlar. Çok teşekkürler. Şimdi TÜREP Yönetim Kurulu üyesi Murat Çolakoğlu'nu davet ediyoruz. O da TÜREP Kamu ve Yurtdışı İlişkilerden sorumlu Başkan Yardımcısı Sayın Ebru Arıcı efendim takdimlerini yapıyorlar. Çok teşekkürler. Bir toplu fotoğraf alalım hemen hızlı bir şekilde. Murat Bey sizi de görelim bu fotoğraf karesinde. Biraz daha öne gelebilir miyiz acaba? Biraz daha şöyle öne gelebilirsek. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz ve hemen oturumu başlatmak zorundayız. Gelişen
Now we start the new session. We will start this session in no time. Wind turbine technology and market expectations in Turkey. This is the title of the new session. Our colleagues are now redesigning the stage. There has been considerable change in wind turbine technologies, and in this session we will talk about the shortening commercial life of wind turbines, and we will be discussing the future plans of the manufacturers. Mr. Zekeriya Coştu, the Deputy Minister of Industry and Technology, will be moderating this session. Mr. Deputy Minister will come to the stage to moderate the session. Mr. Ulrich Schulze-Südhoff, CCO of Enercon, Mr. Ibrahim Özarslan, the CEO of Nordex SE European region, Professor Dr. Mehmet Çelik from Aselsan, the UGES sector president and deputy director general, and Jose Luis Jimeno, Vestas Mediterranean, Africa and Middle East president. Let me repeat my announcement. Mr. Jose Luis Jimeno will be replaced by the country director of Vestas. Mr. Levent Isak will replace Mr. Jose Luis Jimeno.